What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and today we have a pretty cool one because we are going to be reviewing the Ultra Class 2007 Universe Powerglide. Now this toy, if I'm understanding correctly, I don't know, I could be wrong. It was originally meant to be a smaller figure, but then they blew it up to Ultra Class and gave him a bunch of cool little gimmicks that I'll get into later that make him really stand out and just make him overall a really fun figure. If you remember, I mentioned in my video about the Legacy Armada Galvatron. I really like any Transformer with gimmicks. I love the original Armada toys, any Unicron Trilogy toy. I just think they're super fun, and I haven't really been able to find some for cheap. I am looking at getting Leader Class Animated Bulkhead. I saw him at my local shop, so I might get him later down the line. Off looks, he's very, very bright. I don't know exactly which version of this. A lot of the listings on eBay and a lot of the pictures of Powerglide have him in his white and orange deco. But this one is the more G1 colored, bright red, blue, and kind of a sandy, you can't really tell on camera, but in person it's kind of more of a sandy gray color, which I think works a little better than just that normal gray that you have on some figures like Studio Series. I do really like these nice metallic and clear blue sections that you have across the whole robot. They really bring a lot of color to him, and it's a good substitute for the way those stickers put that color on the original Generation 1 toy. And that super nice and bright Autobot symbol, that tempo is just so clean. I love it so much. It's just right in your face. And he does have this little feature. If you open up his chest, he's got his little heart in there from his episode in G1 where he opens up his chest and he's got the little heart lights in there. Yeah, that's a cool little detail that you don't really see other than when you're transforming it. That's how I figured out it was there. Sculpting in robot mode is very nice. It kind of gets a little washed out, especially on the legs. The details get a little bit mushy, but overall this gray does not hamper those details because they're just so deep and sculpted into there. I'll get more into the details on the jet mode, but he is very nicely sculpted and picked out, and I love that head sculpt. One interesting thing about Powerglide that I told to my mom the other day is that this little silver crest actually originates from his original G1 toy, or that silver thing he's got on his forehead in the animation model. They drew that because there was a screw right in his forehead on his original G1 toy, and they drew that on the animation model, and that's just sort of evolved over time. So he's got this little silver thing on his forehead that actually used to be a screw, which I think is really cool to see how that sort of evolved over time. But that face sculpt is really nice. It does sort of lose the eyes in there, especially if you're looking at it from sort of a down angle, because there are lights in the eyes. But overall, it's a very nice figure. The only real problem I have with it is his legs are just a little too skinny. It's either that or his chest is a little too broad, probably the chest, but most of the, as we'll see in transformation, most of the plane is located in this chest area. So I can see why. It still doesn't hamper how awesome he looks. he just looks a little silly with how close those legs are together. But posability, he does have a swivel in the head. Just be careful because of the wires in there. He can look and activate the gimmick. He can look up, not really down, but that transformation joint can look up. He has the nicest ratchets in his arms I have ever felt. They're so like buttery yet strong. They hold a pose really well. He does have ratchets in his bicep, has a elbow swivel, no articulation at the hands because of the way he transforms. Nothing at the waist, again, because of the way he transforms. Or no, not nothing at the waist. He has a ratcheted waist swivel. I always forget about that because I'm so used to the waist sculpt being up here. But no, it's actually below the crotch piece that swivel happens. Legs are ratcheted forward. They can go up that far. They can go back that far. This doesn't get in the way of anything. Outward movement is a bit stiff on this copy. It does go out, but it's just a little bit stiff. And then 90-degree ratcheted bend at the knee. Feet can go a little bit up and down for transformation. One thing I was not expecting, he has a slight tilt, and that's not for transformation either. They put that in there because that's cut like that. So he does have a slight tilt there to get him to naturally stand, which is very cool. As you saw, he does have his light up gimmicks, and his eyes light up, and his little engine boobs can light up. Not many sounds in robot mode. It's only really plays that machine gun sound. But an interesting thing is when you transform him, there's a little sensor in there, and when he's transformed into robot mode, he only makes that sound, but when he's transformed into jet mode, he makes other sounds that I'll get into in jet mode. The only weapon he comes with is his minigun from the plane mode. It can turn around and become a missile launcher. I don't have the missiles because this was used. Transformation is very fun, and it's super cool how all the mass just spreads out over this area from going to this chest and just splaying itself out into this big jet mode. So the first thing I like to do, untab these wings, very powerglide like, just bring those out. And then the cool part of the transformation, you untab this tummy section and it's a little janky because the button is right here, so it kind of just plays on its own sometimes. Like sometimes if the wings aren't tabbed in correctly, then it'll just start wiggling around and play that sound over and over and over again. But you bring that down. This section, it doesn't tab in, but it sits in between those little grooves, sit in there. It doesn't tab in, but it is a little divot for it to sit in. So you open this chest piece up, like I showed, bring this down, and this will come down and tab into that little notch right above that button. So you bring that down, tab that into place, spin the head around, which I'm not too keen on because of the wires in the head, but it doesn't seem like it's going to break anytime soon, so I think we're okay for now. Bring that up into this, and that'll completely hide his face, And I love how that just blends right into the plane mode, and you don't even notice. Bring these down. Oh, bring these down, sorry. And those are your tail fins, and that's basically the back of the plane done. Bring this entire cockpit section up. Take the waist, rotate it 180 degrees, bring these feet up, rotate it so that these vent sections are facing out. Clip them together, they will clip in, these two tabs will clip in to there. Collapse the legs, bring this up, I forgot to say, ratchet these so that they're facing the same way as the nose cone, bring it up, this will sit in this little divot there, and then there are those tabs that'll go into those holes, so just plug that in, smush it all together, and there's most of the jet done. Bring these big sections around, and you want those vents facing towards you. Bring these wings out, and then you'll hear a click for those parts, and that will just sit over top of this, and make sure that this is sitting flat against the leg, because it won't sit correctly if it's not. Same on the other side. Bring that down. Then for the arms, very powerglide like, you make sure that those holes with the screws are facing towards the front of the jet. Bend the arm, and there's this little divot in there that will tab into that part that's sticking out. So you push those in, and then the cool part, you push back on this landing gear, and that slides those wrists in there. That's why there's no articulation at the hands or at the wrists, because it slides the hands in there. And then the same thing on the other side. On my copy, this ratchet joint is a bit gummy. Like, it's a bit stiff and strange. I'm not sure if it's gonna break, but it seems fine for now. So we'll see. And there you have the jet mode. You can take his gun, plug it into the bottom there. He has folding out landing gear, although this sits at the same height that this does, so when you roll it around, this black paint scrapes on the ground. So what I like to do is push it just a bit forward, because then that lowers that landing gear a bit more, so that that's not scraping on the ground. Then you fold out these landing gears, and there you have your jet mode. And jet mode is very, very nice. My dad loves the A10 Warthog, as I've discovered while showing him this. He loves this plane, and he was actually in the Air Force, so we saw these around a lot when he was deployed. So he's told me a bunch of things about it while I was showing him, and he really knows a lot about it. So that was pretty cool to hear that. And these planes are very, very cool. They fly super low and have so much firepower and are super accurate. So I think it's a fitting mode for powerglide. Just a fitting, super hardcore plane for him to take down the Decepticons with. He does have rolling landing gear. It doesn't roll super well. This front wheel is a little bit tight. The back wheel's not so much. But as I said, when I have it fully folded down, it sits at the same spot as that cannon is, and it scrapes on the ground some. Other than that, he's pretty cool. His paint is very, very nice. The paint matching on these two. Again, my camera isn't picking it up very much, but in person, the paint matching between these two clear sections and the plastic is very, very nice. Only a little bit of paint chipping too. This is some very durable paint. And there is a slight molding in the cockpit. There is a light in the cockpit, so there's not really a seat in there. But they have molded in the little computer monitor section that goes in there. He does have lights and sounds in this mode. So he has his flying mode, his machine gun mode, and sort of like power-up mode. And another interesting fact my dad showed me was that this sound is way too slow for this gun on the A10 Warthog. I'll show a footage of the A10 Warthog firing. And you can hear that it is so insanely fast and so insanely accurate. And I showed my dad this, and I was messing around with the sounds, and he heard this, and he just said to me, "Yeah, that's too slow." And it was really funny. I love the tampos on the wings, sort of the classic Air Force star thing mixed in with the Autobot symbol. And that is also very clean. There is a bit of chipping on this one. But on this one, that's very, very clean and picked out. And the colors, there's a lot more red on display than in the robot mode, because most of the gray is just down here. Undercarriage is a bit messy, but I mean, you're not going to be really looking at the bottom of this if you're just having it sit like here. Maybe if you were flying it around. But overall, nothing really hangs out the bottom. Everything is really tucked in. Like I said, I like how the head just disappears back there. And this doesn't tab in, so that gets a little bit annoying, but I don't really grab it from the back anyway, so. And I just love the sounds it makes. The detailing on display here, I just want to mention, is very nice. They picked out all of these rivets along the entire body, including this section that houses the electronics. They put all of those in there. And it really just brings this sort of to life, helps make it look more grounded and cartoony. I'm not one of those people that super likes the Michael Bay designs. Like, I love Michael Bay, that's what I've grown up with, but like it's a little bit too muted and not very colorful for some of them. Love the designs, don't like the colors. So this super bright red jet among all of those, because I do display this with my Bayverse things until I maybe find like I think there was a Hunt for the Decepticons powerglide. So I might get him and display him with those, but for now he goes on my Bayverse shelf because he sort of fits that hard military aesthetic. But with the bright red, it's kind of funny. Don't really know what these tampos are for. It's got to be some Transformers related thing, because there are so many Easter eggs on the, like 4500X being Michael Bay's private jet on, that's his call sign for Blackout. So these have got to mean something. I have no clue. If anyone knows what these mean, please let me know in the comments. I would love to have that little tidbit of knowledge. But I would highly recommend picking up a Universe Powerglide if you can find them. I got them for $25 at a store called Retro Replay in Bel Air. Would definitely recommend checking them out if you're into Transformers or anything, really, not sponsored, but they do have great deals on a lot of things. And yeah, I got this whole thing still working for $25, which is a very good deal. If you could find it for like 30 $40 is a bit much. Anything above that, probably not worth that. But 20 or 25, 30 would definitely be a good price for him. And that's my look at Universe 2007 Powerglide. Follow me on Instagram at Rodimus_slime. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.